This is the short run here, and so I'll be looking at how I would have lined up with the Australian squad heading into Sri Lanka for the two Test match series. Now, you might be wondering why I'd be looking at a Test squad for that's already been announced, and there's two reasons for that. One, I'm a smartass and think I'm better than the selectors, and two, I was a bit lazy and didn't get around to this in time before they announced the squad. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Um, and I think we have to take a step back first and look at what the goal of the series should be. And in my opinion, that is with a forward look towards India in 2027. So we want to see players in subcontinent conditions who we think might work. Now, we don't want to sacrifice our performance entirely while this is happening. Um, so that's why I've tried to balance the squad. And I think one thing about this squad with Australia is that, look, I think the squad that Australia have picked is better on paper. I'm not arguing that at all. But I think with some players, with the ICC Champions Trophy around the corner, some players don't necessarily need to be on this tour if they're going to be going there. I'd rather some players playing white ball form instead through the finishing of the Big Bash season, which admittedly wouldn't be everyone, like Brisbane Heat, for example, are out. But we'll get into it a bit later. But I think this way, the series will be balanced enough where performance isn't sacrificed. I still believe this squad can win, but at the same time has a look to the future. Now, the first spot opening batting is Sam Consis, and in my opinion, regardless of this goes for the Australian squad or for the Australian squad that's been selected or my squad here, he should be batting. Now, I'm not completely sold on him, to be honest. I don't know how good he is, but I'm willing to be taken for the ride. He clearly shows like he has ability. He just probably needs to work on timing his innings a bit better, knowing when to play what shots. Because if he keeps batting how he did in Sydney and even Melbourne, an average of 20 isn't good enough for an opener, and particularly if it's fast because he was taking no shine off the ball. I'll be lining up with Travis Head. Now, I was in two minds here. The first is actually if I should have even taken Travis Head on tour, but he will be here next time we play India. Next time we play India in 2027. So I see that he should be the one getting the captaincy experience. I think he needs it. As a bit of help because if Cumming goes down, Smith won't be around for too much longer. We need to have another guy ready to step up, and that should be him. And this would be a great experience for him to learn the batting. He opened terrifically well for India. I mean, you could bat him in the middle order at 5, wouldn't be opposed to that, but I think opening the batting in the subcontinent seems otherwise. But yeah, and hopefully he can. This might sound dumb, but hopefully he can even rein Consis in a bit because while he's attacking, he plays shots well and he builds his innings very nicely. Anyway, at number 3 we have Marnus Labuschagne. He's been number 3 for Australia for a while. Kind of out of form, has been for a long time, 3 years, maybe even 4. But I think this series will be a bit of a make or break series for him, depending on how he goes. And then number 4, I actually want Nathan McSweeney. So you might say no Steve Smith. We'll get to that a bit later. But I think that after McSweeney's baptism of fire against Jasper Bumrah, he should be, when he wasn't an opener, he was asked to open. To be fair, I thought that was the right move at the time. I was wrong. But, I think 4 or 5, his more natural position. He appears to be a good player of spin. He would be very much in the discussions of us playing against India in the future in 2027. So I think we should back him in, and he deserves another chance away from Jasper Bumrah. Number 5, again, you might be seeing a few omissions here, but I believe Josh Inglis to be the next best bat. In my opinion, for guys that aren't in the current test setup, so that's like your Smith, Marnus, Uz, Head, Consis, Smudge, Webster, and Green, he's probably the next best. His shield form has been excellent, and he can keep as well. So he's probably our second choice keeper, our next up bat. In my opinion, we should give him a go. I don't believe he's near the caliber of Gloverman and Alex Carey. It's not to say he's bad. I think he's pretty good, actually. But, I think Alex Carey is exceptional with the gloves at the moment. And his performance over Shield in the past year has been good. He's played well enough for Australia in limited overs. And, yeah, should probably get a I'll go at number 5 purely as a bat. Number 6 is Bo Webster. You know, I thought he should have played the whole Ashes summer from match one. I can understand why he didn't, but his performance in the Sheffield Shield have been excellent over the past 2 years, and even a little bit longer, but particularly the past 2 years. He dominated Australia A games. He's a batter with very handy bowling. I wouldn't quite give him the title as a proper all-rounder, but his bowling is accurate, seam up, tall. Should have probably had 4 wickets on his debut as well. His bowling surprised me a little bit, but I still think he's more of a batter, and definitely in the country's top 4 batters. This tour will be great for him. Give him a good run at different conditions. Yeah, at 7, Alex Carey, great bat. Well, may not great bat, good bat. Um, Great gloveman. It's interesting, when we first selected him, I thought he was going to be more of a batter that could keep, and it appears to be he's a keeper that can bat, which is nice because I do believe in the value of fielding and shouldn't always be overlooked. But yeah, Carey 7, not much more to say there. Um, Again, number 8, Nathan Lyon. Not What can I say? Not much to say. While he may not be on the next India tour, I do believe he's our best spinner. It's not like he's need to play big bash or white ball. He should be focusing purely on red. And I think he'd be the best player to lead the attack with young spinners. And then at number 9, I want Todd Murphy. In my opinion, Todd Murphy is quite clearly the second best spinner in the country. If anything, he's almost as good as Nathan Lyon. He could be arguably better, just hasn't played as much. But in the Shield this year, out of all the spinners that played a few games, like Richard Scully, or however you say it, Botticelli, Swepson, Kuhneman, and even Lyon, he bowled the best of them all. He wasn't given much of a chance in England, but bowled terrifically well in India, way better than I thought Kuhneman bowled, for example. And that's not a side on Kuhneman. I thought Kuhneman bowled very well, but I just think what I'm trying to get at is that just because he bowls off spin as well, and we already have like Lyon to even extend Trav Head, does not mean he shouldn't be in the side. He's a very different bowler to Nathan Lyon. He uses variation a lot more. He doesn't quite turn it as much, but he has more variations in his stock, and the ball to will keep a bit lower as a Lyon who goes a bit higher. Scott Boland, number 10. Now, again, might be an eyebrow-raising selection considering the fact that I did mention that I wanted, young players or players that will be in India, and he probably won't be. But it's more that he's always bowled in bowler-friendly conditions in Australia and typically hasn't gone too well when it hasn't been. I don't think he bowled bad in the first match he played, the only match he played in India. I thought he actually bowled quite well. But I think that, it's important to see him on other surfaces to see what he can do and to hone his craft. Because if we only save him he's very much in our test scenario for the next 1 to 2 years. So I think if we only save him for pitches that really suit, yeah, that could work. But what happens if we need him on a pitch that might offer less? Plus, he was, again, known for bowling the MCG for ages. Like, I've got no problem with this. I think he should play. At number 11, I've gone with Matthew Kuhneman, even despite his injury. If he's not fit, I'll get to it later, but I think if he's fit, he does get the nod. He bowled left arm off spin appears, left arm orthodox, I should say, appears to be better than leg spin in subcontinental conditions. Now, that doesn't mean I do think Swepson is a better bowler than he is. I think they're very on level playing field, but I think we do start with Kuhneman considering he has played for Australia before and played well. And because it's only a 2-match series, we don't need a big rest of the squad. Tim Ward I've gone with as a bit of who's a different type of opener to like Constas and Head, and I do believe he's probably the next up in Australia, regardless, like after Kawaja. I know he hasn't started this Shield season opening. He's batted terrifically well. Has played well in a List A game recently, and he's opened for Tasmania for a long time in the past and played well. Cooper Connolly should actually play one game, so I'd play Cooper Connolly under the scenario if Kuhneman isn't available and Swepson then plays round 1. If Swepson doesn't go too well, I'd play Connolly at 8 in number 2 in that game. Sean Abbott, in my opinion, should actually play one of the matches. I do believe as bowling cover for Scott Boland if he doesn't go too well in this game. I think he deserves a berth considering we did take him out of a lot of first class and domestic cricket this year. He's been terrific at this level for a long time and can seriously hold a stick. And not only that, he's a great fielder too. He provides a lot with the bat and fielding on top of his bowling. and I would like to just see what we have there. I know it's not the best conditions to give a fast bowler a crack in, but again, as I said, he offers other stuff. And Mitch Swepson, if one of the Murphy or Lyon doesn't, not Murphy or Kuhneman doesn't bowl too well in match one, I'd play him and give him a crack. And then, as I said in the scenario, if Kuhneman isn't fit, then Swepson plays in match one. Now, there'll be a lot of eyebrow-raising selections and a lot of players left out. I just want to kind of go over them. So, the first one I want to talk about is Usman Khawaja, who I'm in, again, two minds about. On one hand, he looked hopeless this series, like completely in all sorts. But he is very old. He's 38, I believe. Maybe 39, I think he's 38. And it's funny, the one innings that Bumrah did not play in, he looked very good. And I think, honestly, this might sound dumb, but all this summer he looked really good and just kept going out like when you wouldn't expect him to. It was a bit like Steve Smith the summer before. Not this summer, actually. I didn't think Steve Smith looked that good until he did. But yeah, Steve Smith, he had, and again, this is with benefit of hindsight, the career I don't have, he got injured in the Big Bash. Personally, I would like to see him have played out the rest of the Big Bash season for the Sydney Sixers, considering they were in the finals, and that he has the Champions Trophy around the corner. Spoilers, he'll be in that squad. I just don't, and he probably won't be in India in 2 years, I would be saying. So he seems like his format will eventually drift towards the short format because he's put his eyes on 2028 Olympics. So I personally think that, we should look to some other options here, that being Nathan McSweeney. Now, Peter Hampson is in a very unlucky spot where it's saying both the other two players above him also would be in the same situation. But if we didn't have the World Test Championship final locked in, he would have been the reserve bat. I would have actually played him in the first game and the second game probably at number 5, while opening up probably Uzi and Head with Smudge. If we weren't in the World Test Championship, because we are, I just don't think that he will be in the next. Not to say he won't be. Like again, if he's still batting and playing well, he can very well make it. But look, I think you can, if you want to bring a 16th player, he'd be who I bring as a 16th player. Glenn Maxwell, I want to lump Glenn Maxwell, Adam Zampa, and Ashton Agar all into here. Not so much through fault of Ashton Agar's, I'd say, or even to an extent Glenn Maxwell's. Definitely Zampa, but they don't play enough red ball cricket, nor is the series on the line enough to warrant selecting them. And I'd argue in Maxwell's case, if the series was on, he would be very much considered over Cooper Connolly. I would have probably actually picked him over Cooper Connolly. Oh, probably not. I don't know. But yeah, I think that, if he just with the series not being allowed to Cam Green, Mitch Stark, Josh Hazel, Jai Richardson, all injured. I would have loved to have bring Jai Richardson, but the guy's made of glass. Mitch Stark is another interesting one. I think his workload was so high over the summer, I see zero reason to play him in these 2 test matches. Considering, again, he won't be there for India. The Champions Trophy is around the corner. I'd rather him rest up for that and be really fit for the Champions Trophy. Agar played very well in the Shield game he played, and I think he was very hard done by when we first went to India and we played him that shit wicket on the SCG, and he get wickets and we just didn't consider him again. Yeah, I think that was very unlucky of him. Corey Rocchiccioli, been, in my opinion, the 5th best spinner in the country. Like, the plays Shield consistently. That's not, he's not better than Murphy. He's not better than Lyon. I doubt he's better than Kuhneman or Swepson, so I'm just not picking. Plus, he's an offie. He doesn't really offer something different. And last one I want to talk about is Adam Zampa, who very well might be, even with the red ball, a top 3 spinner in this country. But the fact he's only played 1 game and that we're looking to a future tour, I'd rather, not play him. I just think that Swepson, a little bit younger, plays red ball consistently, particularly in a series that we don't need to win, should be picked. Even though we didn't go with him in the other squad. But yeah, that's how I would have lined up for Sri Lanka. Again, I don't think the Australian squad by any stretch was bad. There was no single selection in there that I raised my eyebrow at. I thought it was a good team, but this is just how I would personally go with a bit more focus on youth. Right.